Summaries are useful when you're reviewing a lot of literature and you want to be able to jot down the main ideas of the articles that you've reviewed so that you can quickly refer to them as you're writing your own literature review without having to always go back to the individual articles themselves and lose your place and find where you found information before. So we're going to go into Microsoft Word. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Layout. We're going to change the orientation to Landscape so this way we can have a little bit more of a wide space to work with. Then we're going to go into Insert. We're going to go to Table. And for this particular video, I'm going to have a table of 6 columns with 6 columns. The first column will be the author. Next will be the year of publication. Third will be topic. Fourth will be the sample size, then will be the setting, and then finally the sixth will be the findings from that research. So the first author, again, these are all hypothetical studies, of course. These aren't actual studies, but just to make this video as user-friendly as possible, let's say the overarching topic today is sports, and I've reviewed 6 different articles from 6 different authors that write about different sports and different ideas on what they deem, or rather what the research participants and research subjects deem to be most pleasurable or favorable when it comes to sports-related experiences. So the first author whose article that I reviewed, let's say his name was Mike Tyson, and he published his article in 1986 on the topic of boxing and used a sample size of 220 in New York. And he finds that participants, his research subjects rather, it's quantitative, let's assume, his research subjects prefer contact sports, they prefer individual sports over team sports. They believe, his research subjects, that size doesn't matter, but that speed does matter. And they also find that focus and mental health in general are important. I'm just going to adjust the margins here a little bit so this way we can fit as much in here as possible. So this way this document remains as user-friendly and short as possible. Precise and concise is always the name of the game, right? The next author who wrote an article that I recently reviewed, let's say, his name is Sean Taylor. And he wrote his article in 2007 on football, and he used a sample size of 230, and he got the sample from Washington. After working with his research subjects, he finds that those research subjects prefer contact sports. They prefer team over individual sports. They do believe that size matters, and they also believe that speed matters. And they also believe that focus and mental health are important, whether it comes to training or recovery after games or after performances. The third article is written by LeBron James, and this was written in 1984 on the topic of basketball, and he uses a sample of 81, and he collected his data in Cleveland. And his research finds that research participants, right, with 81, it's likely a qualitative research study, so we'd call them research participants. His research participants prefer some contact, not a lot of contact, but not no contact either. Some contact. They believe that both the individual and team sports are favorable. Size does matter, they find. Or they believe speed matters as well, and that focus and mental health are also important. The fourth author, Tiger Woods, he published his article in 1992 on golf, and his sample size was 73, so another qualitative research study more than likely. And he collected his data in California, and he finds that research participants prefer non-contact sports. They prefer individual over team sports. They also state that size doesn't matter. Neither does speed. Speed doesn't matter. But focus and mental health remain important. The fifth author is named Alex Rodriguez, and he published his article in 2016 on baseball. And he did a quantitative study involving 230 research subjects out of New York. And he finds, or rather his research finds, that people who play sport prefer non-contact sports. They prefer both individual and team sports, believe that size matters, and so does speed. And they also believe that focus and mental health are indeed important. And the final author, whose article that I reviewed, his name is Scott Stevens. He published his article in 2004 on the topic of hockey, and he did a qualitative research study involving 74 research participants out of New Jersey, and he finds that those participants prefer contact sports in a team environment. Size does matter, and so does speed. Speed matters, and so does focus and mental health. They're all important areas, according to his study. So a tabular summary, this is a very short demonstration of a tabular summary. A tabular summary is a very efficient way to begin writing your literature review. This may seem like an unnecessary step before getting started with your literature review, but when you're reviewing a lot of different articles, it's easy to forget who wrote what and what their main ideas were, and so on and so forth. So a tabular summary, when you complete a tabular summary before you write your literature review, it's a one-stop shop so that you can always come back to it, and as you're writing your own literature review, you'll be able to reference it and know this is what Sean Taylor's study said about contact sports. This is what Tiger Woods' study said about focus and mental health, and as to whether or not they're important in performance. So a tabular summary really helps to make the literature review writing process very efficient. Again, it may seem like an unnecessary step, but I would recommend all students and all authors to begin their literature review process with a tabular summary, so this way they can branch off and write narratives from these tables that they would be creating first.